Into, for example, do they get the employees involved in a lot of volunteering? Do you really like volunteering as well?
Ooh, that's a good match.
Hello guys, it's Maddie, welcome back and welcome to my channel. So today's video is going to be the second part of my 3-part series on spring weeks. I've already done the first part, so the first video where I focus a bit more on the structure of the application process. I just kind of go through the basics, what to expect from each stage, and how many stages there are, how they can be a little bit different depending on a company and so forth. And I also kind of give my tips on what stuff you should already have ready before you even begin applying. So those sorts of little stuff, you know, little kind of admin, just organisation things, I've already covered in the first video, and I should leave the link to that right up there, so please go and check it out if you haven't already. But this video, however, is the second video, which I have already explained in the first video. It's going to be all about CVs and cover letters. Now for most spring weeks, when you apply, you're most definitely going to have to upload your CV. They all require you to upload your CV, and not all of them, but most of them require you to upload a cover letter. Now a cover letter is essentially you expressing your interest into the role, into the spring week that you have applied for, and you essentially just write down in a nice kind of formal way why you're applying, you know, what your intentions are with this, what you want to get out of it, why you'd be a good fit for the role, that sort of stuff. So in this video I'm just going to be telling you my tips on how to structure or lay out your CV, what to include in your CV, how long your CV should be, and in terms of cover letters, essentially I'm going to be helping you build your own template in a way with the tips I'm going to give you. And I just want to emphasize on the word template, because it is a template. You cannot be copying the same cover letter for all the investment banks or all the companies that you apply for. No, because that is going to be very obvious when you're using the same cover letter. It will sound generic. You will be using generic points that kind of go to all companies. You know, oh, I like this company because it's a global company. Most investment banks, I'm pretty sure nearly all financial service kind of companies, they are all global. They all have offices in more than one country or in more than one continent, and that just sounds very generic, and it's not unique, it's not original, and many people are going to be putting that down. You know, it's kind of a generic point, it won't make you stand out. So I'm just going to help you make a template, but you do most definitely have to tweak it, change it up a bit for each company. You cannot just use the same one for all of them, because obviously they may all be investment banks, but they're all very different, have very different clients, have very different work culture, have very different ways of working, laying out things, have very different values, for example. So all of that you're going to have to research, and you're going to have to change that cover letter up for each company that you apply for, so it really shows and you can really resonate your enthusiasm for the company, and that you really want that spring week in that particular company. You know, make them feel special, make them feel unique, make them feel like you're applying not because just of the role in general, but because of that company as well. That's what your cover letter should really show. And I know there's always a lot of talk that companies, when they receive a load of applications, obviously year on year, especially for spring weeks, they are very popular, and spring weeks are actually more competitive than actual summer internships themselves, because there are far fewer spaces for a spring week. And because of all these applications, many people tell you that, you know, the CV, the cover letter, yes, you have to obviously submit them because it's a compulsory part of the application online process form. However, they don't really read it, or they may just skim read, you know, they don't really take it into account. And, you know, that is not a good mentality. I've heard a lot of people say that, even careers advisors, even, I'm not going to point any names, but they have said in the past that yes, cover letters, you need them to apply, but it's not so important, so don't put all your effort or energy to them. And that's not a good mentality, because for any role and throughout the whole process of application, you should be putting your full effort into it, because you obviously really want this role, of course. So I would say that CVs and cover letters are most definitely important. You should have a very solid CV and a very good cover letter that you have put effort into and not just copy and pasted. It is very important, and I know this for a fact because I actually received funding this summer from my university to carry out research into employability. And from my research and interviewing lots of employers and, you know, heads of recruitment in different companies and so forth, they have all told me that these CVs and so forth, yes, they most definitely look at them, especially when it comes down to maybe two candidates being really closely matched in terms of skills, in terms of grades. They definitely look at them to distinguish which one has more extracurriculars, which one has perhaps more relevant work experience, which one shows that they really like to do stuff outside of their academics. and they use the CV quite a lot of the time to differentiate between two candidates. So if it's not well written, your CV or your cover letter, you know, your expression of interest, that is, you know, not going to help you out if it comes to that kind of situation, for example. And yes, they have 100% guaranteed me that they read and at least, you know, quickly scan through all CVs and all cover letters. So they are important because they do get looked at. So please do not listen to anyone that tells you otherwise. But with that little ramble out the way, let's get into the video. So to start off with the CV section. Now your CV should just be one page. I know lots of people tend to do a lot of extracurriculars, a lot of, I don't know, work experience, volunteering. You want to put that all down. But at the end of the day, it's more important to put the key work experiences that you've had over, for example, a smaller volunteering opportunity that you've had where it's not as relevant to the role that you're applying to. So you kind of have to prioritize the top things if the number of experiences that you have exceeds a page. But please just try and keep your CV to one page. Keep it a nice, neat layout, you know, so maybe use lines or some sort of something to separate out the different sections. Now, having personally gone to a whole CV and cover letter workshops held by Goldman Sachs, they kind of gave me a really good insight and I'm about to share with you guys. So your CV, as I said, should be one page, but the sections in that, it should start off with your name at the very top, then your contact details, so your address, your email and your number should be right below your name. So nice and clear at the top who you are, how to contact you. After this should be a very brief personal statement in a way, so maybe one or two sentences, something like that, that really sums up what kind of worker you are, what type of person you are, you know, how you would sum yourself up. So you could say you've got very good numerical skills, you are able to work under pressure but still deliver really good outcomes, something like that, you know, one or two lines, that should be your personal statement. So the top bit of your page, of your one page CV, should be generally who you are in a nutshell, very brief. After this should come things like your key skills and interests, kind of certificates that you've won perhaps. So the way I've laid out my CV, for example, is I put key skills and achievements. So this is my section here. So I've kind of listed my key skills. So I've put language skills, leader, competent in IT, those sort of skills. And right next to those skills I've put certificates, or I've put volunteering opportunities, or I've put awards that I've won in school, something like that, that shows that I do have that skill. So for example, I've put competent in IT, and right next to it I've kind of listed all my certificates that I've achieved in IT. So I've listed that I'm a Microsoft Office specialist in Excel, Word and PowerPoint. So I've listed that all there. I've got financial Excel certificates, I've listed that there. I've also won a coding competition, so I've listed that there. And it just shows, it backs up that you are not just saying you have that skill, but you also have your certificates and achievements to show that. And it's kind of a section that, you know, is a nice way to put both things in one section that back each other up. After this section, they said it's important to put the main bit basically. So your work experience, your extracurriculars, you know, the main stuff like that that have really given you insight into the world of work, for example. So there I've just listed my main work experiences that I've done, and I've listed important things that I've achieved extracurricular wise. So for example, I was chairwoman of the Economic Society and the Debate Society in the 6th form, and I also run my own jewellery business and photography business, and I've done all these work experiences in these companies, and I just kind of list the main ones that I've done that are relevant to a spring week, for example, in that section. And basically what you do is just put the title of what you did, so maybe work experience in so-so company, after which you put the location of where that work experience was, so for example London, and then afterwards you put the dates, so from this date to this date. And when you're listing all these work experiences and so forth, please list them from the most recent one to the least recent one. That's how it should go. And then after each experience, just put 1 or 2 bullet points which summarize really well exactly what you did in that work experience, what teams you worked with, for example, and you know, just gives a really good little outline of what you got up to and what you achieved from it, or if you won an award at the end, or if you had to do a pitch about a product, something like that. You know, put it down in brief bullet points beneath each work experience, or each volunteering experience, or each extracurricular experience. So that should be your main section. After this comes your education. So here you basically list your institution where you studied, then you list the type of exams that you took, and then you list your grades, and you list also the year that you were in this institution, so from this year to this year, and you do that for all the institutions that you did all the way up to university. And when you get to university, it's a really good idea to also list the most relevant modules to what you're applying. So if you take any finance modules, for example, it would be a really good idea to list those there, and say your expected grade. For example, if you're in the UK, it might be a 2-1 or a first, so forth. And that's your education essentially. After this section would come your references, things like your references. So a reference is someone that knows you that's not in your family, perhaps knows you from an extracurricular activity that you've done, or a teacher, something like that, a reference. So you put down their name and their contact details, and anyone that wants to have a reference would just phone them up and just double make sure that they know who you are, and you're a good worker, for example. Those are your references. If you do not have space in your one-page CV, you can also just put references available upon request at the bottom of your CV. So this overall is the key template that these financial companies or investment banks really want. At least Goldman Sachs definitely wants it in this template. You can also look on Word, they have loads of CV templates, or maybe type in on Google, CV templates. They also have very nice CV templates there, so you can make it also visually pleasing, I guess, or attractive, I don't know, so it's nice and easy and clear to see for the person who's reading it. And please do not try and make it jam-packed. Do not try and include too many words in there, because that will put someone off from reading it thoroughly and reading it properly. Now for the cover letter section of this video. Now here, as I said before, this cover letter should kind of be a template ready to go, so it speeds up the process, because you will be applying to quite a lot of spring weeks, to maximize your chances of being successful. However, as I said before, you do not copy and paste the same cover letter for all of them. No, it has to be unique. However, I'm just going to quickly go through what your cover letter should be looking at the end, and what each of the 3 or 4 paragraphs you should include in your cover letter, what each paragraph should include. So to begin with, just the easy layout of a cover letter. It's like any other formal basic letter that you would write. So in the top right hand corner of the letter should be your name and your address. That's just a normal formality that you would do with any letter. Then below this section, but to the left, should be the address of the company you're applying to, but also it would be best if you're able to find the name of the head recruitment person in that company, because this just shows you've done your research. You really want to address your letter to a name, to someone who would or could potentially read it. So the head of recruitment could potentially definitely read it. They're in charge of recruitment essentially. So try and find that. You can find it on LinkedIn, just type it on Google. It usually comes up for all companies, the head of recruitment, and just put their name and address the letter to that person. Make sure you don't forget the date and all that good stuff. So that's the basic letter template that you should do for any letter, really, any formal letter. After you have said dear so and so, the head of recruitment, you then begin your cover letter. Now, like any job letter application process or cover letter, you must begin with something like, I'm writing to apply for so and so role which I heard about here in the London office, for example, just to be very clear what you're applying to, in which office, and so forth. Following from this section, you should have something that says why you are applying to that particular company. Kind of hype them up a little bit and say all the good stuff about the company that really attracted you to applying there, but make sure this goes beyond just the about us section on the website. Don't just copy and paste stuff that they have on there. Maybe take that information but have your own opinion on it, why you really like it, how does it relate to something that you are really interested in too. For example, do they get the employees involved in a lot of volunteering? Do you really like volunteering as well?
Ooh, that's a good match.
Just kind of really, hype them up and just say why you really are interested in this particular company. Make them feel unique, make them feel like you're not just applying for the role in general, but their company. Now the next section should be what attracts you to this role. Why have you applied to this role? What attracts you to, for example, banking or wealth management, whatever you applied for? What attracts you to that role? What is it that you really like? Is it because you've done a work experience in the past, or you've done a volunteering opportunity, or you met someone in a networking session that has just shown you that that career could potentially be a really good one for you because it's very challenging or very fast-paced environment that you really like, you know, here is your time to bring out stuff that you have in your CV, you know, and you refer back to your CV. So during my so-and-so work experience as seen on my CV, I learned this and this about the financial industry, or I got some exposure to this area and I really liked it, which is what sparked, you know, my interest in banking and the finance industry. And since then I have gone on to do this and this to further that interest and so forth. You know, something that really shows that you're really passionate and you're really keen, you know, to go into this industry in the future. And you really want to get an insight such as a spring week, just to kind of clarify and really solidify that decision of yours that you really want to go down this path, for example. So it's something, you know, that shows you're really passionate about that role, about the spring week. And once again, please do not make it generic, make it something unique. Now this next section is basically all about having confidence and, you know, bigging yourself up a bit. You already, you know, hype their company up, now you're going to hype yourself up, you know. You have to say what your skills are, what your knowledge is like, and how this matches to the skills and the knowledge and the sort of characteristics or traits, personality traits that they are looking for, which they should put in a job description. You know, when you apply for the spring week, it should say there, we are looking for this kind of character. So here's where you kind of match your skills to what they're looking for, you know, and make it nice and clear to them why you are a perfect candidate for this role, because you perfectly match all those skills and all those personality traits that they are looking for. So this is your time to kind of big yourself up, you know, and, you know, have that little boost of confidence, write a little paragraph about yourself. Don't be shy, but at the same time, you know, calm down, do not brag. This is just saying, you know, I've done this and this, you know, I'm really keen, and showing you're just keen and a really good candidate and you're not bragging. Now after this section, so you would be about 3 paragraphs in by now, should just be kind of your concluding little line or concluding little paragraph in a way. And here you just keep it brief but keep it positive. So just say thank you for reading my application, or thank you for taking the time for reading my application. I look forward to hearing from you soon. Something like that, you know, keep it brief, keep it positive, keep it like, you know, you're confident that you're going to hear back from them soon, you know, something like that, but at the same time don't sound braggy. You know, that's very important, don't sound braggy. And obviously at the end you just sign off with your name and so forth. And that is essentially your cover letter done. For your cover letters, like your CV, please do not go over 1 page. As I said before, they do get a lot of applications and they do read them, trust me, they do read them. But obviously if it's a little longer, they are not going to spend any more time than they do for anyone else. So yes, they might have a little bit of a skim read if it's too long and you're just handing in essays. So please keep it brief for them, nice and easy, gets to the point, but, you know, still reflects your enthusiasm for the role and why you'd be a perfect candidate. And after you finish writing it, the only thing I can say is keep going over that, keep reading it, make sure there's no grammar mistakes, no spelling mistakes, and it's always good, essentially, you know, it's presentable, because spelling mistakes are not a good look, trust me. It shows that you haven't taken the time and effort to read over it or even put it on a spell check, for example. Use Grammarly, actually. Grammarly is a very good tool and it just kind of picks up anything that's not written in a formal way and so forth. So if you have access to that, I really recommend that, actually, just so everything is neat and tidy and everything's correct. So that's the end of the video, guys. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to comment down below and I'll get back to you. Also, I'd love for you to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'll leave it down below in the description box, and please just connect with me and then send me a message that you're from my YouTube channel and I'll happily connect with you. If you have any further questions than anything, I'd also be answering questions on my LinkedIn through Messenger. But thank you very much for watching and I'll see you in my next video.